One of my subscribers asked me why I don't do more stories based on Fox News. And the reason that I don't do a lot of stories on Fox News is because I would be rambling, and I do mean rambling, on and on and on about their bullshit, okay? Bill O'Reilly, in my opinion, is a racist, as well as, and in particular, Sean Hannity. Megyn Kelly also has that slant on everything other than dealing with Donald Trump stuff since she got into that big deal with Trump. This is an example of a bullshit story that Bill O'Reilly put up regarding Colin Kaepernick. Now, just so that you have some context, the Wednesday before Fidel Castro died, San Francisco played Miami, and a reporter did basically, I guess you can call it an interview if you want, but the players have a news conference day on Wednesdays, and this Cuban reporter saw that Colin Kaepernick had a picture of Malcolm X on a t-shirt, and on his t-shirt he also had a picture of Fidel Castro. Now, I pointed out in previous videos that black people in this country do not feel the same way about Fidel Castro that the Cubans down in Florida and obviously across the country feel about Fidel Castro, especially the white Cubans. The white Cubans, the older ones especially, are fanatics about Fidel Castro because of what he did as far as taking stuff away from them. And again, I'll say that, you know, they have every right to feel the way that they do. But, okay, and here's the big but. Fidel Castro, in a lot of black people's opinion, was a fighter against racism, a fighter against discrimination, okay? He fought against apartheid, okay? He actually sent troops to fight against South Africa, where America was on South Africa's side, okay? He basically attempted to outlaw discrimination in his country, okay? Yeah, now, did he kill a bunch of people? Yeah, he did, okay? Just like the president of Turkey is killing a bunch of guys who tried to overthrow him, okay? So, in that vein, this is America, we have freedom of speech, and Kaepernick is continuing to sit during the national anthem, and this guy decided that he was going to question Mr. Kaepernick. Now, you're going to see a piece of the interview, not the entire one, but a piece of the interview, and Colin Kaepernick answered him, in my opinion, in a very intelligent manner, and he equated the separation of families, which the reporter brought up in Cuba, with the separation of families here in America. And I'll make some specific comments after they're done with theirs. But here you go with the Bill O'Reilly story regarding Colin Kaepernick and that Miami reporter.
Is a major problem now with San Francisco 49er quarterback Colin Kaepernick. 2 days before Fidel Castro died, Kaepernick was talking with the press in Miami before the Niners played the Dolphins.
One thing that Fidel Castro did do is they had the highest literacy rate because they invest more in their education system than they do in our prison system, which we do not do here, even though we're fully capable of doing that.
He also did something that we do not do here. He broke up families. He took over a country again without any, justice and without any elections.
All right, so right then and there, all Mr. Kaepernick could have said at that point was, Bautista, who Fidel Castro overthrew, did the same exact thing. He took over a country via a coup, okay? He did not hold any elections after he took over the country, okay? There was tremendous amount of discrimination, and in particular, the black Cubans were getting shit all over by the white Cubans that were part of Bautista's corrupt government, which the United States backed. He could have gone in that direction. Now, I don't know, how familiar he was with all of the details, but I am very familiar with the details.
We do break up families here. That's what mass incarceration is. That was the foundation of slavery, so our country has been based on that, as well as the genocide of Native Americans. Are you?
Okay, and that's absolutely correct, because during slavery times, families were absolutely separated, and today, because of the quote-unquote war on drugs, families are broken up. So my question to him would have been, who brought the drugs into the United States? Who put drugs into the black communities? It's documented. That was the American government. That was the CIA that poured drugs into black communities. Okay? So now you can pick whatever reason that you want, but the black community was targeted, and they were targeted by the United States government. And the way that they decided to go after them was through the interruption, through the induction of drugs into the black communities. And as a function, then the war on drugs was targeted again towards the black communities. And furthermore, when two people arrested and convicted of the same drug crime, one white, one black, the black person gets a sentence that's 40% longer than the white person. And why do we have the 3 strikes rule? Now, I'm rambling. Let me continue with this.
Equating the breaking up of Cuban families with people going to jail in the United States of America?
I'm equating the breaking up of families with breaking up of families.
Wow.
And that is an excellent answer. Equating the breaking up of families with the breaking up of families. The reporter goes, wow, he doesn't have an answer for that.
Amazing.
And joining us out from Miami, Armando Salguero, columnist for the Miami Herald, who you just heard questioning Mr. Kaepernick. So there's no question, well, in my opinion, he's the most radical athlete I've seen in my lifetime. Even more radical than the guys in Mexico City at the Olympics. Okay? He's off the chart. Should the league now do something about his public statements?
Okay, so the man basically answered all the questions. He's off the charts because he's equating what Castro did in Cuba to what the United States does here. But that puts him off the chart. No, that's comparing apples to apples, Bill. But because you don't agree with him, he's off the charts. He is not the most radical black athlete, or athlete period, in the history of America.
Well, the league is obviously a private enterprise. They can do anything they very well wish. And they do with many of their employees. They limit coaches from expressing their opinions about referees. They limit players from expressing themselves in their touchdown dances and what shoes they wear. They can do it if they want to.
Okay, but the difference is they can limit all of those things because they have something to do directly with the game. You turned around and started asking the questions. You did that. So now all of a sudden you want to limit his freedom of speech? No, damn that. You don't want him to answer truthfully. You want him to lay down and not say anything. If you didn't want to get an answer to your questions, you shouldn't have asked the questions.
Should they do it, in your opinion? I mean, what you did, Armando, was a service. You did a service. You asked Kaepernick, and I understand he got your attention on the matter because he wore a Malcolm X t-shirt, and on that t-shirt was a picture of Malcolm and Fidel Castro. That caught your attention as a Cuban American, so you followed up with him. This was, and I want to reiterate, before Fidel Castro died. So you did a service, but Kaepernick basically is saying to America, look, I'm a radical leftist guy, all right? And I have a right to be a radical leftist guy, and in my interviews, I'm going to say what I want.
No, that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is he has an opinion, okay? And his opinion is that America is fucked up. That is his opinion. You did a service, quote unquote, and decided to ask this man questions. And I will repeat, if you didn't want an answer to the questions that you asked, you should not have asked them.
I think he does have the right to do that.
He has the right to do that. The NFL has the right, as we just discussed, to shut it down if they want.
But they don't.
Do I agree with that? No, I don't agree with it, because understand, I'm a journalist, and I'm a guy whose parents brought me here so that I could express myself. So it would be kind of hypocritical for me to be anti-expression or anti-First Amendment or Bill of Rights. I'm all for America and for expressing yourself in America. And yeah, unfortunately, sometimes people go off the deep end, but that doesn't mean they don't have the right to do it.
There is a solution, and I'll give you in a moment. The irony is that 2 days after your interview, Castro dies, and then we dealt with this last night. There were a bunch of leftists who were praising the man and, you know, all this kind of crazy stuff. But in Kaepernick's situation, if he said what he said to you, to the Havana press, of which I think there are 3 of them, and they're all related to the Castro brothers, they throw him in jail. You know, if he said, hey, Cuba's a bad country, Fidel's a dictator, and done X, Y, and Z. He's after that. And I was just wondering, it's so ironic, I don't even know if Kaepernick understands that.
Well, I don't know of too many people who praise Fidel and sing his plaudits who have ever lived under Fidel.
Well, no, but you don't have to live under him. I don't live under him. I know who he is. But you had the Prime Minister of Canada, Jesse Jackson, a bunch of far-left politicians in the USA. Yeah, come on. I mean, the stats are the stats. The Human Rights Watch is the Human Rights Watch. Everybody knows who he is. But what shocked me, and I think it's a shock to you, with the Kaepernick situation, he equates it because we put heroin dealers in jail. He objects to that. That's what the mass incarceration is all about.
No, Bill, that's bullshit. Okay, you're talking you're trying to say that a huge majority of the people that are in jail are heroin dealers. That's a bunch of bullshit. Okay, I'm not saying that there are no heroin dealers that are in jail, but a lot of these people are in jail basically for possession. Okay. Trumped up possession charges as far as marijuana is concerned, not even heroin, but marijuana. So for you to make the leap that the mass incarceration thing is about heroin dealers, that's a bunch of bullshit.
They're drug dealers, hard drug dealers. That's who's in jail. That's the mass incarceration. And he's equating that with some poet in Havana who wrote a thing saying, gee, I wish we were all free. See ya, you're going. He's equating the two, and this is insane.
And no, Bill, he didn't equate the two. He equated the mass incarceration, okay, that was done in the United States with slavery, Bill. That's what he equated it to. Okay, Castro, yes, he did put a bunch of people in jail that disagree with him. No ifs, ands, or buts. Just like, or not even as good as the president of Turkey turned around and killed, and we don't even have a full number yet, a bunch of people that attempted to overthrow his government, just like a bunch of governments around the world where there's an attempt at overthrowing their governments when and if they get control. All the people that make that attempt, they either get their asses out of the country or they're caught, tried, and for the most part, shot. So no, Bill, that's not the equation. He's not talking about some poet that's going to jail. He basically was talking about the people that went up against Castro. When you're on the wrong side and you lose, there are consequences. And those people, quite a few of them, were the ones that faced the consequences, especially the ones that were totally in line with Bautista, that were doing the raping of poor people, the discrimination against poor people, the torturing of poor people. Those are the people, Bill, that we're talking about, not that poet that you're talking about that writes a poem that's anti-Castro. And I will grant you that some of those people were, yes, in fact, put in jail for whatever reasons.
Well, the hypocrisy to me was that he, kneels down and protests on NFL sidelines, and then hours later, he praises an oppressor. So he's against systematic oppression on the one hand, and then putting a systematic oppressor on his shirt and proudly doing so.
Well,
okay, and let me tell you who the oppressor is in this particular case. Why is the Cuban economy in the shape that it's in? Might have a little something to do with the embargo that the United States has had for the past 50 years, okay? We don't have an embargo against China, okay? They're an oppressive government. We don't have an embargo against Vietnam. Hell, they kicked our ass in a war. And we have full diplomatic relations with them, and we have trade agreements with them. No, it's because Fidel Castro had the balls to stand up against the United States, and he wouldn't back down. Fortunately, he got support from the Soviet Union before it collapsed, and subsequently got support from Venezuela, and to this day is still obtaining support from them. So he doesn't feel like he has to kiss our ass. But because he won't, the United States takes the position that it takes. And fortunately, President Obama has decided to open up diplomatic relations with Cuba. Now, will they ever remove the embargo that we have, the official embargo? Probably not in my lifetime, but sooner or later, that thing is going to have to come down. And it won't be during the next 4 years, I can tell you that. But if the Democratic Party can get back in and take control of Congress again, that probably be one of the first things that is completely removed.
I think it's reached critical mass, and I think the league is, for his own safety, for Kaepernick's own safety, is going to have to stop it in some way. I agree he has a right to say it. I wouldn't want him shut down because it looks bad for America to do that. But I fear for the guy's safety. I really do at this point. I think he's so far out there. He's alienated so many people. You heard the boos at the Dolphin Stadium. I mean, it was thundering when he came out there. So I think the league, for Kaepernick's own protection, has got to find a way to mitigate it. Last word.
Let's put it this way. Colin Kaepernick is very fortunate that there are not more Cuban Americans playing in the NFL.
All right.
Let me put it this way. If a whole bunch of Cuban Americans went after Colin Kaepernick, you would have a whole bunch of Cuban Americans getting their asses kicked because the black players in the league would stand up and come to his defense, and those Cuban Americans would not stand a snowball's chance in hell of walking out of any stadium. And I'm including the guys on these Cuban Americans' own team. They would turn around and wear their asses out. So you are absolutely wrong on that one, buddy.